And we are live.
Hey!
Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining us again. This is going to be a really exciting co-jam. I'm totally stoked about it because, as you know, we're going to show you a small bit of the game, but more on that later. I just wanted to open up today with a question for Charles, really. Maybe you can give us an update of where the game is at right now.
Yes. Oh God, it's been really hard work, hasn't it? And indeed, Nina, you've been fantastic. We've been going through, we're focusing on the first half to make sure that that's all polished. Going through, making sure that all the inventory items have reasonable replies. In particular, you know, when you talk to Nico or you examine her, that it's worthwhile because it reflects the state that she's in. That if you have a reasonable combine in your inventory, if you have a reasonable object that you use on a background object, that if it doesn't work, then we at least explain why it doesn't. Hopefully lots of jokes. Do you know what the real pleasure is that at this point in both Broken Sword 3 and 4, because we were running a normal company with lots of employees, my main focus was beginning to shift across to what our next project would be. Now it's absolutely still on this Broken Sword game, which is such a pleasure because it means that I can really focus and play through again and again and again and again. I'm playing with Neil downstairs, which is one of the reasons why we're late, apologies. And we're looking, we've basically, naturally the game falls into a point at which you then go on to new locations, and we're focusing on getting those finished so that we can record that first section, that first part of the game. Clearly moving on very fast with the second part as well, but it's really locking all of that so that we can record next week and that's it, which is brilliant. It's incredibly exciting, and we can start translating as well. We are in the process of translating, so it's a great part. And the other really exciting thing, and Tony, you're wonderful, everybody's wonderful, is that we can make huge differences to the game at this stage because the point of indecision has gone.
Yeah.
So you sit there and you go, now there's this design change. Do I think about it? No, just do this, bang, and that's it. And it means that you move really fast and you see major changes. And the other thing is a lot of the graphics are coming in now as well. So instead of just a very static Nico or static George, those are coming in. So it's a really important time in the project.
You wouldn't think it, but these games always come together in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain why, but it's just the way it is.
Can we tell a story which is actually really quite good?
Yeah.
And that's when we wrote the first Broken Sword game. We were working with Virgin Interactive, who were good guys. In Europe, they were great. And they put a code about a month before it was finished. They gave it to a magazine that doesn't exist anymore called PC Zone. And PC Zone put it out to a freelancer. And the freelancer just slagged it. And we got it back, and the editor took into account the fact it wasn't finished, so upped our score. I mean, it was all really, that was the way it worked in those days.
Right.
You could go to a magazine with a half-finished game and say, will you take into account that in a month's time it'll be much better?
Right.
So we got slagged off, and we got a really low, and we got a mediocre score. And that really spooked Virgin, that really spooked us. And then thankfully, every other review after that was really good because they were reviewing the final game. But that goes to prove Tony's point that if you review a game a month before it's finished, an adventure game, you don't get any of all these things that are coming together.
Yeah, it's really quite amazing. I think. I mean, I've finally played through the game. I was really excited because I've sort of been kept away from it for quite a long time. And finally, I was given the task of going through and testing. And I have to say, I enjoyed it immensely. And I think every playtester that's come in, everybody's had really positive feedback. And having seen it in development, with black and white backgrounds and animations missing, and text missing errors and stuff like that. It wasn't there yet, but it's so close now, so close.
And by extraordinary good fortune, Rolf, who went off to San Francisco, is coming back to the UK. In fact, he's arriving about now. Cool. I think he's arriving today. So he's going to be available for the session. So we recorded him like a couple of months ago. He went off to San Francisco. We assumed that we were going to have this logistical nightmare of working with him in San Francisco and crossing. And just by enormous good chance, he's back to do something else. So it's all sort of working out.
Great. Now, I bet you guys are wondering why I've given you these little
cardboard
things. Yes. Okay. They are actually for a quick quiz. I'll explain how it works. Basically, you both hold it in your hand, and I'll ask you a question, like, who is the best looking? And you have to pick whether it's Charles or Tony. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, hang on. I'm just going to...
We know nothing of this.
No, I know. Hang on, Nina. When you went to warn us about this?
Oops. Okay, are you guys ready? Oh,
Yep.
That's a bad zoom. I'll change it back to that one. Okay, first question. Who is the better storyteller? Hold it up. Go on. Yay! Who is the better programmer?
I think this is a fairly easy one, yes.
Although you did a bit of programming back in the day, didn't you?
Yeah, well, if it
Charles?
comes to basic, then, you know.
The word was better though, wasn't it?
Okay, who knows more facts about Broken Sword?
Those guys.
Yes, I think it's very close, but I think I do.
I tend to go to Charles.
What would you
if I need
say?
a fact.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, it's sort of
Half
there,
and
but
half.
yeah.
Who plays more games?
I play more Minecraft.
Charles plays a bit more of a...
I haven't played Age of...
variety.
I'll tell you what is really good is that for the last few years I've been a BAFTA judge, and I mean I'm also a BAFTA judge because I'm a film as well, and the films are great. It's really fun, but there are thousands of people judging films, whereas games you get together and you have a particular category, and there are like 10 people, and they decide who wins the BAFTA, and the discussions are fascinating. They're really getting to the heart of, you know, what the subject, if it's visual. So I was the chair of one actually. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but it was a couple of years ago. And my jury asked, what should our criteria be? And I sat there and I said, the criteria should be that this should be that the visuals, judge the visuals in relation to how they affect the gameplay. And that was interesting. And everyone went, well, in that case we know which one it is. And I can't say what it was, but it's criteria like that that makes a profound difference. And sorry, I'm still holding my thing up. And so it's a real pleasure playing those games. So last Christmas, you know, I finished Swan, I finished Journey, I finished loads of games, and I play a lot of games on the peripheral, but to actually finish a game, take the time to finish, it requires, you know, a good incentive. Now, I'm hoping that we're going to have a bit of time this Christmas, so, you know, as we know, we're going to have the game out, God willing, in time, where we can sit and actually relax and play some games, and what a pleasure that'll be.
Can I just add, I may not be playing as many of these big games as you are, but I know an awful lot about games aimed at 7-year-old girls. I see a lot of those.
Yeah.
Campus Life is my least favourite.
And I keep getting blooming messages from because
you can never stop them. They start at 8:30 in the morning. Different iPads start popping up with messages about Campus Life. And pet shop games that say, we've got a new kitten in.
Anyway, should we change the subject?
Yeah, well, the next question actually leads on quite well from the BAFTAs is who watches more films?
I think I watch more films.
This is all rigged, isn't it?
Oh, come on, Tony.
I don't have time to watch films.
I watch them because I judge them.
What about who decides what game we do next?
Oh, that's very much.
I think it's Tony.
Who's thinking about it the most?
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, well, that's because I'm thinking about this game.
Yeah, that's right. It's important to think about this game. Who can run 20 miles in under 3 hours? Who is better?
Tony and I ran a 10k the other day.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Tony is absolutely awesome, I have to say, and I don't normally compliment Tony about anything, but he is super fit at the moment. I was in a bit of a bad way, I have to say. I was not well at all, but I still did it in a pretty pathetic 54 minutes. And I reckon that...
It wasn't too bad.
Wasn't too bad.
You're midfield, Charles. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I hadn't been training.
No, I reckon I should be getting it under 50, but you were 45, which was fantastic.
45 in like 2 seconds, which was really epically disappointing.
Oh, shame.
I heard that you're really good at football though, Charles.
Oh no. Although I'll tell you what, if somebody was to challenge the Revolution team, which the guys at KMA, do you remember KMA? Very good friend of mine, Kit Monkman, who had a company, KMA, and they used to challenge us. I was talking to Andy B about this, Andy Bosquet, who you know.
Yeah, I happen to know him quite well.
This is Nina's fiance.
What's all this?
We're not going to go there again.
Oh God, you're going red. Sorry.
Not again.
Oh dear. Anyway, Andy is a sort of quiet, gentle fellow, but on a football pitch, he is absolutely magnificent. Little Mike, who was our artist, very quiet, very introverted, put him a ball in front of him. And I tell you what, the whole Revolution team suddenly came together and we were so good. Dale, tall guy, strong, great forward, eyes defence. Little Mike in the middle, passing the ball around. Andy, really solid sort of midfielder. We were fantastic. But Kit, we played his very, very competitive. And then I challenged him again. And he said, that's fine because my sternum was just about recovered. I said, why? What happened? He said, you broke my sternum last time. And apparently I'd collided with him with such force that I broke his sternum. But he did point out that he did keep playing. So I'm not sure how badly you can break a sternum, but it didn't stop him.
Sounds dangerous.
It was dangerous.
I know I'll never play football against you, Charles.
Very wise.
How about who is better at juggling?
I used to juggle for your daughter, Ella. She liked that. This is rigged.
We're nearly done. How about who deserves more credit or blame for the goat puzzle? Do you guys think it's credit or blame? I know it's a contentious topic.
I think I take the credit, Tony takes the blame.
I like that. What about who's the party animal?
I think it's wine related. There's probably not that much in it.
I think we both enjoy a glass of wine.
Yeah, they're not really party animals. I think
We're not. No.
here we have a party animal. Okay.
Yeah, as you noticed, a cup of tea instead of a beer.
Now this one is going to be a tricky question.
Okay.
Who is the boss?
She's
Tony,
not,
you go first.
She's not in this room.
And last question, who's your best friend? Oh, go on.
I see.
This is another.
It's either Tony or...
Charles.
Well, of these two, it's definitely Tony. Tony's a very good friend. Tony's a very, very good friend. I have to say, it's been a pleasure. Can we talk about this, actually? Because
Yeah, of course.
we started working together. We probably told you all already. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself. It wouldn't be the first time. And we started working together, Tony and I, in... we think it's about 1985, 1986. And I was at a company called Arctic Computing, based in a place called Brandsburton, near Hull. And we were beginning to fall behind. And the most amazing game came through on the Amstrad, called Obsidian. It was just stunning. And a very young Tony came for lunch. And we took him for lunch. And I mean, I guess it made sense that he licensed it to us, but clearly everybody wanted it. And what was so impressive is that Tony designed it, created the music, created the graphics, programmed it, and just came with this package of this completed game. I mean, it was just extraordinary, and that's why, I mean, Tony is exceptional, and he has this sort of, I mean, this is why he's such a valuable, long-standing member and founder of Revolution, because he's been there right from the very beginning, and then for like 20 years later, more than 20 years later, 25 years later, still has this idea of seeing how the game works, how the code works, how the graphics works, and just seeing everything together.
The thing about Obsidian though is I'm still amazed by it. There was a review in a French magazine that gave Obsidian a really high score, and it gave it a higher score than another French game by it may have been Delphine called Get Dexter, which you can see if you look up on YouTube. You can get Dexter on the Amstrad CPC. It was like a 3D isometric thing. It was one of the first ones I'd seen on the Amstrad, but it was extremely clever, and you could like move tables, and there'd be objects under the tables, and you could collect those objects and put them on top of the table, and all the physics worked and the sizes of everything. And even now, nearly 30 years later, I look at that game on YouTube, and I can't quite believe how they pulled it off on an Amstrad. And my game, which was a much simpler, actually got a higher score in the magazine, in a French magazine as well, which is just ridiculous. you can look at my game on YouTube, and you can get data on YouTube. I mean, technically theirs is still amazing. That's my big thing I remember about that game.
Imagine what would have happened if Charles contacted them instead. I don't think we would have the same.
No, I know, and or if Tony, because Tony was offered the Telecom Soft, which was the big company at the time, wanted the game. I think plenty of people wanted it, didn't they? You sent it to quite a few people.
Yeah, I mean, some people did, some people didn't.
We moved very fast, I have to say, and we were local.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and the local
so it made
thing
sense.
was good. Yeah, it made sense.
Careful with your fingers, they pick up on the microphone.
Oh yeah, I've been told off before for that.
Okay, so I'm just going to move on to some questions that have been emailed in. In the meantime, Alex will collect your questions live, so if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask Tony or Charles, please send them through. Tim asked, according to Wikipedia, it says Revolution decided to aim for a visual style similar to Japanese animated films for Broken Sword 3. Is this true? And if so, which films were inspiration?
Princess Mononoke. Genius. Princess Mononoke to me is perfection. I remember watching Akira in about 1989. It was at the ICA in London. Nobody had heard of anime at that point. And the thing is, Akira just goes on and it gets weirder and weirder. But that opening scene with the motorbikes was so exceptional. Never seen anything like it. And then Princess Mononoke from Studio Ghibli, and I still use that as reference because it's so beautiful. So yeah, no, very much that.
Was it an actual influence on style though?
Well, if I don't remember, I know that it was. I know that it was for Broken Sword 5. We looked at that and we said, what's the sort of style for the backgrounds and. I love Spirited Away as well, but that's a totally different style. But Princess Mononoke's got this beautiful, clean style. So, if it's in Wikipedia, it must be true, Tony. I don't remember.
Wikipedia that we were on the front page on.
That was great, wasn't it? Did you see that?
Yeah,
Broken
I
Sword was
did.
the front page.
Did
how does that
you guys
happen?
see
How did that happen?
How did that happen? Normally, in the olden days, what would happen is, the PR people would take the managers out for a boozy lunch, buy them lots of champagne, and in return, you'd get this. The world has changed so profoundly that a small company like Revolution gets this fantastically valuable promotion unexpectedly one weekend. It's extraordinary.
Yeah. Actually, I just wanted to ask about that while we were on the topic of Japanese. I don't know if we can talk about this or not. Japanese style. You know what I'm thinking of?
Yeah. Well, I think it would be fair to say that what we have been talking to a number of I don't think we should say too much. We have been talking to a number of Japanese animation houses about the possibility of culturalizing. The term localizing is applied to when you translate. Culturalizing is changing more than just the language, changing the characters slightly to make them appeal to a Japanese audience. And that's something that we're serious. But at the moment, we're very much focusing on getting this game out in Europe and the US, obviously, and making it as good as we possibly can.
Okay, the next question is from Spider Matt, who I think has been sending in a question for every Code Jam so far.
Good for you,
Thanks
Spider
so
Matt.
much. Looking back on all the Broken Sword games, is there anything in these games that you regretted putting in or wished you could change?
Yes. Shall I go first? The intro was I'm going to go for the obvious ones.
I'm probably thinking the same one.
Yeah, the box puzzles in Broken Sword 3 were a mistake, and it was very naive. Now, the box, I thought, and I came up with these puzzles, so I take full responsibility, but the box in the aeroplane was great, and the box in the cave was fine because you needed to move it and you needed to do a trip switch and all that stuff. And I kind of felt that those worked so well, and the problem was that as you got through the pacing of the scene, suddenly we'd stick a box puzzle in and it would break the rhythm. And so I really wish I'd been more sensitive to that, and that was a big mistake.
But it wasn't entirely our fault. We were being pushed to finish the game.
We were being pushed. I think ultimately there are certain things. I think I take the responsibility for that because I should have seen that they could have been.
It's very noble of you, Charles. I just blame the publisher.
I know. Well, I was sort of planning because obviously for Broken Sword 5 nothing will go wrong, but I mean, the great thing is that nobody else to blame, but then also there's nobody else to blame. So we take absolute responsibility for everything that's good or bad.
Gangster is asking, this is questions live.
Gangster.
I'm trying to remember what Gangster's real name is. I think it's one of the backers we may have met, or it's definitely one of our most active.
We know Gangster very well.
Yeah.
Ah,
But what's his real name?
hang
That's
on.
a
Maybe
secret.
he doesn't want you to know.
Okay. I won't say anything.
I know.
Who is producing the soundtrack of BS5?
Oh, that's Barrington and Phelan again.
Yes, but is he just the composer? Is he producing?
Oh, he's just very good question. We have a very talented